voice recording. Okay, go.
One may not build steps by the ravines in the 6th year after the rains have ceased, because this would be preparing them for the 7th year. But he may build them in the 7th year after the rains have ceased, because this would be preparing them for the 8th year. He may not block them with earth, but he may make an embankment. Any stone that he can take when stretching out his hand may be removed.
Okay, so the idea that just to clarify here, the idea that we're trying to get across here is that using stones is permitted for building, but you're not allowed to remove stones if it looks like you're clearing your field for agriculture. So that's what we're trying to get the balance of over here. Is that building is fine, but clearing stones for agriculture is not. And all these restrictions are to make sure that it doesn't look like he's gathering the stones in order to improve his field.
All right. Shoulder stones may be taken from anywhere, and a contractor may bring them from anywhere. Which are shoulder stones? Any that cannot be taken with one hand. So says Rebbe. Reb Yossi says, as the name implies, those that are carried 2 or 3 on a shoulder. One who builds a wall between his own and the public domain may dig down to the rock. What shall I do with the earth? He heaps it up in the public domain and then restores it to order. So says Reb Yeshua. Reb Akiva says, just as one may not cause damage to the public domain, so one may not restore it to order. What shall I do with the earth? He heaps it up on his field in the manner of those who take out manure. Likewise, if he digs a well, a trench, or a cave.
Okay. So the original halacha was that a person is allowed to gather up sticks and stones from his own property in order to use them. He wants to use them for firewood. He wants to use stones for building or whatever. Just the same way that he could pick from his neighbor's field. It's agas, the big ones. If he's picking up the big ones to use for firewood or for building. Okay. But unfortunately, Klal Yisrael had a bit of a spiritual descent, and people were cheating on the system and taking also the little ones just to get their fields ready during Shemitah. And so they made it takana that you could only take sticks and stones for yourself from other people's fields. Okay, and furthermore, but not for a favor. You're not doing it. So if Reuben goes to take stones out of Shimon's field, he's not allowed to do it because Shimon asked him to do it, or because Shimon's paying him to do it, because then he basically just becomes a worker for Shimon, and he can't do it as a trade, as like today I'll take from your field and you'll take from, and tomorrow you'll take from my field. It's got to be done from other people's field because you genuinely need the sticks or the stones for your own purposes. Obviously, you have to get the guy's permission, but he's not doing it. But you're not doing it for him as a favor to him. That he's, and certainly not if he's going to pay you or give you some kind of reward for doing it. Okay. Sadesh and Iskavitsa. Now,
so you mentioned, by the way, they may gather wood and stones, but here they also have herbs. They mentioned herbs.
Asavim, you're right. You're right, Asavim. I didn't mention that. Yep. Okay, that's also in the Mishnah. Okay. Mishnah base, Sadesh and Iskavta. Now, how we're going to deal with a situation where B'diavad, somebody did work their field, and now is there a knas on him? So it depends on what the work is. If Niskavta means basically it's from the shorish of kots, of thorns. So a person went and cleared his field of thorns. Okay, but Aveira, he wasn't allowed to do it. But there's no knas on him, because just taking the thorns out of a field does not actually prepare the field for planting. There's still a lot more work to be done. However, shinitaiva or shinidaira, if it was and nitaiva is that he improved it by plowing it in order, or it was fertilized, or he put his cattle in there to fertilize the entire field, and not according to the guidelines that we saw in the previous Mishnah. Remember, we had the mutar way of putting your cattle in your field, so he did the asr way. Lo tizar b'motzei Sheviis. Now the Chachamim put a knas on him. say because you worked your field during the Sheviis, or because you were preparing your field during the Sheviis, you're not the Knesset, you're not allowed to work it in the 8th year either. Now, what happens in a case of this field that was plowed, that was improved, fertilized? Then you're also not allowed to eat its Shemitah produce, even in the 7th year. Beis Hillel say it's still Shemitah produce, it's still hefker for everyone, and if you get hold of it, you're allowed to eat it. The Knas is on the farmer for the 8th year; he's not allowed to plow it. But Beis Hillel say that even if the field was worked during the Shemitah year, you're nonetheless allowed to eat the produce. Of course, this is talking about produce that is mutter during the Sheviis year, like tree produce or vegetables that had sprouted before Rosh Hashanah. Because we learn that tzvichim, things that sprouted after Rosh Hashanah, the Chachamim put a gezerah on to say that you're not allowed to eat those at all. Okay. Beis Shammai omrim ein ochin peros Sheviis b'tova, ubeis Hillel omrim ochin b'tova v'shelo b'tova. So Beis Shammai is saying here that you're not allowed to give recognition to the owner of the field for taking his fruit. So you walk into the farmer's field, and he's got all these trees that have got Shemitah produce on them. You're not allowed to make any recognition to the farmer that this is his land, says Beis Shammai, because this is it's Shemitah produce, and we don't want to give any impression that this fruit belongs to him. It must be clear that this is hefker fruit, and we owe him nothing. He say you can, if you want to be nice and be a mensch and say thank you for farming this fruit. There's no issur in doing that. Rabbi Yehuda Omer chiluf hadvarim. He says no, you got it exactly the wrong way. This is one of the cases where Beis Hillel is machmir and Beis Shammai is mekil. And there's another. I think there was another girsa over here. Yesh Gorsim, right? There's another girsa in Divrei Beis Shammai, which, according to Rabbi Yehuda, is Beis Hillel, ein ochlim ela b'tova, that you have to give recognition, which is exactly the opposite thing. That because they make a gezerah on, according to those who have this girsa, it's because people we make a gezerah on Shemitah because of other years that a person shouldn't be accustomed to walking into other people's property and taking their stuff. So anyway, we only have the girsa that we have, and what is the halacha? I'm guessing that we're going to be going like Beis Hillel according to the Tanna Kama, which is basically either way, because Rabbi Yehuda is a das yachid, and we generally go by, so we discount his opinion at the end, and Beis Hillel say you can do either way. You can say b'tova, shelo b'tova, and either way works fine. Okay. I don't recall, but when we must keep an eye out for this in Maseches Eidos when we come to the perek about the chumras of Beis Hillel and the kulas of Beis Shammai, that Rabbi Yehuda is going to add, as far as I recall, Rabbi Yehuda adds his own thing that he says in the Peres Sheviis, that you must take him b'tova shelo b'tova, because he has this different opinion over here. Okay, Mishna Gimel, Chochrin nirin min hagoyim b'Shviis. You are allowed to rent fields from the non-Jews during the Shemitah year, aval lo mi-Yisrael, but not from a Yisrael. So what's the deal over here? This is during the Shemitah year. A Jew is allowed to accept a field from the goy for a rental. And remember that the goy owns the field, and during the Shemitah year, he doesn't care about Shemitah regulations. He's going ahead and plowing. He doesn't have these halachas. Okay, so you might have the chashash that you're not allowed to benefit from the fact that he's been plowing his field during the whole of the Shemitah year, and then on Rosh Hashanah, immediately the Jew walks in and he's got a lovely plowed field to start working on. Okay. So even though he's now encouraging the goy to plow the field during Shemitah by allowing us to rent from them, it's fine. This is accepted because the goy doesn't have such a mitzvah. So there's no problem with encouraging to do this. Okay, mi Israel. You can't do this if a Jew is an over avera and you know that he's plowing his field. That's obviously that's a mikshul for him because he's got the mitzvah. And we carry on a tangent over here about other things relating to goyim machzikin yedei goyim b'shvius. And you can encourage the goyim during Sheviis and avaloy Israel. So if a goy is farming during the Shemitah year, you can say, "How's it going? How's the crop? Hope you have a wonderful crop this year." And there's no issue. It's not flattery. It's not anything because he's not doing any avera. It's not one of his 7 mitzvahs. Okay, avaloy Israel. You cannot encourage a Jew who's being on over avera. And it's a good thing to have friendly relations with the goyim because darkei shalom. We want to keep peace with our non-Jewish neighbors. Okay, we can go. We can do some chazaras. Let's go. We're in Sheviis Aleph Hey, I think.
I just don't want you to miss the thing.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sheviis. Go do something else because I can't. I don't know why it's not here. I must have put it back on the shelf. Why did I put it back on the shelf?
No, we're still in this Masechta, the one that we were just doing.
Oh, yeah. Don't confuse me. All right.
Okay, tough.
Which one are we doing now? I took the stupid thing. I took the tissue out. Where are we? I took the tissue out.
Aleph Hey.
Okay. There we are. Right here. 3 trees which belong to 3 people combined, and one may plow the entire Beit Saw for their sake. And what place must be left between them? Rav Gamliel says for oxen to pass through with their implements. If 10 saplings are spread over a Beit Sa'ah, the entire Beit Sa'ah may be plowed for their sake until Rosh Hashanah. If they are planted in a row and surrounded by a fence, it is permitted to plow only as much as they require. Saplings and Greek gourds combined in a Beit Sa'ah. Rabbi Shimon Shimon ben Gamliel says, if there are 10 gourds within a Beit Sa'ah, the entire Beit Sa'ah may be plowed until Rosh Hashanah.
Okay. Just give me a. Go ahead.
Okay. Demai, Vav Yud Bein. If an Aaron said to a Kaver, buy for me a bundle of vegetables, buy me for a loaf, he buys it without specifying and is exempt. But if he says, this is for me and this is for my fellow, and they became mixed up, he must tithe, even if they are 100. If one invites his friend to eat with him, and he does not trust him in regards to tithes, he declares before Shabbos, what shall I separate tomorrow shall be Meiser, and adjoining it to the rest of the Meiser, that which I rendered Meiser is rendered Truma Meiser for it, and Meiser Sheni lies in the north and the south of it, and it is redeemed with money. If since they have filled,
you can carry on. Sorry.
If one invites his friend to eat with him, and he does not trust him in regard to tithes, he declares before Shabbos, what shall I separate tomorrow shall be Meiser, and joining it to the rest of the Meiser that I shall that which I rendered Meiser is rendered Trumos Meiser for it, and Meiser Sheni lies in the north, and the south of it is redeemed with money. Once they have filled his cup, he declares, what shall I leave at the bottom of the cup shall be Meiser, and adjoining it to the rest of the Meiser that which I rendered Meiser shall be Truma Meiser for it, and Meiser Sheni is as mouth and is redeemed with money. Good? Okay.
All right. Zavim. Beis Gimel. Right?
Right. Someone who has a seminal emission does not become tummy through a Zov emission for the following 24 hours. Reb Yossi says only that day. Regarding a non-Jew who has a seminal emission and then converted, he immediately becomes tummy through a Zov emission. After he had one admission, we examine him, but after the second admission, we examine him, and after the third admission, we do not examine him. And Reb Eliezer says, even if the third admission, we examine him on account of the offering.
You've gone backwards.
Right, I knew that right away as soon as I was reading. Okay. Regarding a woman who has a discharge of blood and a woman who has difficult labor, a 24-hour period, and regarding the day or 2 days for someone who strikes the slaves, it is a 24-hour period. Regarding a dog which ate flesh of a corpse for 3 24-hour periods, the flesh is in its natural state. The Zava contaminates a couch. in one of 5 ways, rendering the couch able to contaminate a man, to contaminate his clothing, by the zav standing on it, sitting on it, lying on it, hanging on it, or leaning on it. The contaminated couch of a zav contaminates a man in one of 7 ways, to the degree that the man will further contaminate his clothing by the man standing on it, sitting on it, lying on it, or leaning on it, and through contact and through carrying. If a zav and a tahor person sat together on a boat or a raft, or rode together on an animal, even through their clothes they do not touch, the clothes of the tahor person become contaminated with midras tumah. If they sat together on a board, on a bench, or the support beam of a bed, or on the pole that is unsteady, if they both climbed up a weak tree or onto a weak bench, a weak branch of a strong tree, or onto an Egyptian ladder that is not anchored with a nail, if they went together onto a ramp, a beam, or a door that are not secured with plaster, in all of these cases, they become tameh, and Rabbi Yehuda rules them tahor. And this is all because
that's it.
This is because they're not anchored down.
I'm sorry?
This is because they're not anchored down in some way.
And the Quran, Dilis Bisman Shayna was saying, yeah, right. Correct.
All right.
Okay.
Caleb?
Kalim, Chaftalid Ches, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are 3 beds. A bed that is designed for lying on is susceptible to becoming tameh with midras tumah. A bed of glassware manufacturers is susceptible to becoming tameh with corpse tumah. And the bed of a net makers is tahor from any form of tumah. There are 3 mishpelas containers. A mishpelas container for manure is susceptible to becoming tameh with midras tumah. One used for straw is susceptible to becoming tameh with corpse tumah. And a puklat of camels is tahor from any form of tumah. There are 3 mats. A mat designed for sitting on, which one is susceptible to becoming tameh with midras tumah. A mat of dyers is susceptible to becoming tameh with corpse tumah. And the mat of presses is tahor for any form of tumah. There are 3 water skins.
No, that's it. We've done 3.
Yes. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Sheviis?
Sheviis, correct.
We're at the beginning.
Aleph Beis.
Okay. Whenever there is awareness in the beginning, and awareness at the end, and an unawareness in the between, he is liable to a variable sin offering. If there was awareness in the beginning, but there was no awareness at the end, the he-goat which he sacrificed inside, then Yom Kippur suspends punishment, and he becomes aware of it and brings a variable sin offering. If there was no awareness in the beginning, but there was awareness at the end, the he-goat which he sacrificed outside of Yom Kippur atone, as it is said, aside from the sin offering of the atonements, for what this one atones. This one atones just as the inner one atones, only for the case in which there was awareness. So the outer one atones only in the case in which there was awareness. For one in which there was no awareness, either in the beginning or the end, the he-goats of the festival and the he-goats of Rosh Chodesh atone. These are the words of Reb Yehuda. Reb Shimon says the he-goats of the festivals atone, but not the he-goats of Rosh Chodesh. And for what do the he-goats of Rosh Chodesh atone? For a person who is tahor, who ate a sacrifice which was tameh. And Reb Meir says the atonement for all of the he-goats is alike, for the tumor of the temple and its holy things. Reb Shimon was wont to say the he-goats of Rosh Chodesh atone for the person who is tahor, who ate a sacrifice that is tameh. Those of the festival atone for one who had no awareness either in the beginning or at the end, and the one of Yom Kippur atones for one who had no awareness at the beginning but had awareness at the end. They said to him, may one be sacrificed for another? He replied, they may be sacrificed. They said to him, since their atonement is not alike, how can there be a sacrifice one for another? And he said to them, all of them come to atone for the Rukuma of the temple and its holy things.
Okay.
And we should have Shavuot.
And now we are in Rosh Hashanah. Aleph Hay.
Whether the new moon was clearly visible or whether it was not clearly visible, they could desecrate the Sabbath because of it. Rabbi Yossi says if it was clearly visible, they could not desecrate Sabbath because of it. It happened that more than 40 pairs of witnesses passed on their way to Beit Din, and Rabbi Kiva entertained them in Lod. Rabbi Gamil said to him the following message: if you retain the public, you are placing a stumbling block on their path for the future. A father and his son who saw the new moon should go to the Beit Din, not that they can be paired together as witnesses, but so they can, that if one of them is disqualified, the second may be paired with another. Reb Shimon said a father and his son and all relatives are eligible for testimony about the new moon. Said Reb Yossi, it happened that Tuvia, the physician, saw the new moon in Yerushalayim. His son and his freed slave, and the Kohanim accepted him and his son and disqualified his slave. But when they came before the Beit Din, they accepted him and his slave and disqualified his son.
And you see, the Kohanim were a bit snobbish about Yichus. They didn't want to accept the edus of a ger, of an Eved Meshuchrar. But the halacha is that he and his son couldn't testify together because they're relatives, but the Eved Meshuchrar is perfectly valid to testify with one of them.
Great. Thank you. We made it. So we're going to be probably every day unless you have things to do.
I'm sorry?
This time will be like every day, except if you have things
Most
to do.
likely I'll be taking the 8 o'clock minion every day, but there may be some time when I'm going to get up early and catch the 6:30. So honestly, I'll let you know. If it works out, it works out, and if not.
Okay. So tomorrow, just send a message. Just send a message.
Yeah, sure.
8:30 or whatever. I don't finish until the 7 o'clock doesn't finish until I think it was 8:15, maybe something like that.
Yeah.